Daniel Ricciardo officially announced to leave McLaren at the end of the 2022 season. Rumors were up in the air for a while now, but with the official statement of both McLaren and Ricciardo, a difficult time period finally comes to an end. Daniel and Zak Brown had high hopes at the end of 2020 that Ricciardo could use his experience to help the team forward. But after almost 2 years, we can conclude that that wasn't the case. The Honey Badger has had difficulties adapting since the first race in 2021, and the new generation cars didn't help him either. Whereas Lando Norris scores in 9 out of 10 races, Ricciardo scores on average in 5 out of 10 races. This difference is too big, and McLaren knows that if it wants to make a leap forward, both drivers have to consistently score points. Zak Brown has repeatedly said that Daniel needs to improve himself to secure his seat for next year. Earlier in the season, there were already strong rumors that Ricciardo was going to be replaced by the end of 2022. However, insiders revealed that McLaren could only get rid of the Australian driver if they buy him out. Rumors spread so fast that towards the summer break, Ricciardo made a statement himself that he will be a McLaren driver in 2023 as well. However, as we now know, that statement didn't last long. So how much did McLaren pay Ricciardo? Where did it go wrong for Ricciardo the last 2 years? And what is next for the Honey Badger? Let's find out. Ricciardo has been the last McLaren driver to win a Grand Prix for the team out of working. In Monza 2021, he managed to beat his teammate Norris and secure the first McLaren's race win since 2012. Despite Zak Brown, who got a tattoo of the Monza track on his shoulder and all the praise for Ricciardo, Daniel couldn't manage to find a way to make the car work to his liking. A great analysis performed by Driver61 earlier this year showed why Ricciardo couldn't cope with two-generation McLaren cars. Key to Daniel's driving style is having a stable car in the corners. Former Red Bull performance engineer Blake said that Verstappen didn't mind a moving car when entering a corner, whereas Ricciardo heavily prefers a stable car. Front grip is crucial to help rotate the car and provide the grip levels needed for his driving style. Because Daniel brakes earlier than other drivers, there is less front load and less pressure to push the tires into the track. This results that the car leans forward less when entering a corner, and there is less front grip, as increased pressure on the front tires normally would increase grip levels. The 2021 cars had relatively more front and rear end grip than the current generation cars, but despite this, Ricciardo had many understeering issues. The 2022 cars, as opposed to the 2021 cars, generate most of their downforce through the Venturi effect of the floor. Whereas previously, floors would generate 1/3 of the total downforce, they now generate as much as 2/3 of the total downforce. The Venturi effect works exceptionally well in high-speed corners as the speed of the airflow underneath the car is increased. When the speed of the airflow is increased, a situation happens where the pressure under the car lowers significantly. The bigger the difference in pressure, the more the car is sucked to the surface and the more downforce it produces. However, the downside is that the new regulations affect the stability of the front and rear end of the car in slow and medium speed corners. Daniel has difficulty driving a car that moves in a corner, but due to the lack of front and rear downforce, this happens more frequently with the 2022 cars. When we look at his career, we can conclude that between 2014 and 2018, he drove one of the aerodynamically best cars on the grid. Adrian Newey was famous for his high-rake concept, which generated great amounts of downforce. The Red Bull was also superior in rotating the front of the car and was extremely stable in the corners. Whereas McLaren struggled with braking issues, the Red Bull proved to be very stable and reliable under braking. Opposed to what many people think, Daniel's normal driving style is that he brakes early, rotates the car sharply, and carries higher mid-corner speeds. Ricciardo only brakes late when he has to overtake someone. But when we analyze the onboard cameras from the 2022 season, we can see that Ricciardo has difficulty rotating the front of the car. As a result, he would often understeer, miss the apex, and has to wait going on the throttle. This makes him miss out on valuable lap time. Daniel loses most of his lap time compared to his teammate Norris in the slow-speed corners. When we look at the telemetry, we can see that Norris brakes later, increases pressure on his tires, and rotates the car better. Whereas the Red Bull saw a strong front rotation and looser rear, the McLaren performs opposite and sees a looser front and more stable rear. Because Daniel brakes earlier than most drivers, there is less front load on the tires, which makes natural front grip of the car even more crucial. When cars like the McLaren have less front grip, it becomes more important to brake later to increase front load and increase tire grip. Due to a lack of trust in the car and problems with the brakes, Ricciardo hasn't been able to adapt to the McLaren car and left management of McLaren with a big problem. Continue with Ricciardo or buy him out. Zak Brown already hinted to buy him out, and Australian insiders said to Racing News 365 that the Australian driver wanted $21 million. That is his $15 million salary plus $6 million extra. So how much did Ricciardo eventually get? Close sources say that McLaren has managed to reduce the $21 million to anywhere between $10 to $15 million. McLaren is allegedly trying to get Ricciardo a new F1 seat at another team for next year. This is most likely Alpine, which is also quite sensitive, as McLaren wants to replace Ricciardo by Oscar Piastri. Piastri is currently in a dispute with Alpine, who claims that in accordance to his contract, he needs to drive for Alpine next year. If he decides not to drive for Alpine next year, Piastri can expect multiple claims, so Safnauer said. So what is next for Ricciardo? There are a couple of options for Daniel, both inside F1 and outside. He has already said during the summer break that he still enjoys driving in F1 and that he still feels he can win races. In F1, you are as good as your last race. I am still just as motivated as before. I do find new pieces of motivation to keep me going. I still find a lot that keeps me going, and I am not done yet. While all the seats at the top teams are already taken for the next couple of years, there is an opportunity for Ricciardo to get back to his previous team, Alpine. Daniel has performed well and was comfortable at Alpine, which was previously named Renault. Alpine is also on their way back to the top, and Otmar Safnauer has explained their ambitious plan called Mountain Climber, where they aim to be back at the top within 100 races. Despite good performances, Daniel did leave quite unexpected to go to McLaren, so there might be some resentment there. However, loyalty is far from a given in F1, and Safnauer already said that they want the best possible drivers in their team. If Alpine can't manage to get Piastri back to Alpine, Ricciardo seems to be in the first row to take his seat. Other options are at lower-ranked teams. Latifi at Williams is far from secure for next year, just like Mick Schumacher at Haas, although it is unlikely that Haas will pay Daniel a hefty salary. That leaves Alfa Romeo and AlphaTauri to either replace Joe or Tsunoda. Joe is a paid driver and brings in a large sum of money to a small team. Although Joe is currently heavily outperformed by his teammate, Bottas, he does seem to improve slowly, and with the large sum of money he brings in, Alfa Romeo might think twice about replacing him. Tsunoda still makes rookie mistakes and has mood swings that affect his performance. However, it is unlikely that Ricciardo will go back to the sister team of Red Bull. Other options would be driving IndyCar in the USA, Formula E, or go back to Australia to drive the V8 supercars. However, any of these options are only considered when there is no competitive F1 team that offers Ricciardo a different seat. There are plenty of choices for Ricciardo to make. However, his time at McLaren is coming to an end. But that doesn't mean that he can't succeed at another team. At what team do you want to see him drive next year? Let me know in the comment section below.